The average monthly payment for a new car is now over $700. Cars were supposed to give us individual freedom so we could get anywhere, anytime. So how do we become a servant to our car? When you add the cost of a monthly payment, insurance, and gas, Americans are spending over $1,000 a month on their car. The average income in the US is around $5,000 a month. This means we work the first week of the month for our car and hope the remaining 3 weeks covers our home, food, and savings. This video isn't a critique of car owners. I drive one too. It's about exposing the lie that cars serve us, when in reality, we serve the car. By the end of this video, you will be convinced that your life revolves entirely around cars, and why electric and driverless cars aren't our savior. 92% of Americans own at least one vehicle. We can drive anywhere we want to go. Most drive daily to work, the grocery store, or to school. Today's cars go 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds. We must save so much time now that we all have cars to get us there, right? Ironically, after the widespread adoption of the personal vehicle, we build parking lots so big and roads so long and wide that we live further from these places, have longer commutes to work, and spend more time in traffic than ever. The average commute time in America is steadily growing, and now averages about 27 minutes one way. That's about 4.5 hours a week commuting to work. Almost 10% of Americans travel an hour or more for work, but driving to work isn't the only time we're in our car. Americans spend an average of 17,600 minutes in their car each year. That's 7 40-hour weeks. If we spend that much time in our car, we should pay for a nice one, right? The average monthly car payment in America is $737 for a new car. And if you elect to buy a used car, you would still pay a hefty $520 a month on average. After insurance and gas, you still have repairs. In some states, tax the value of your car. That's over $12,000 a year on a car. And some people own more than one. Again, that's almost 20% of someone's pre-tax income. And this doesn't include how much the government spends on the roads we use to drive our cars on. We pay for those too. We pay to design them, build them, repair them, salt them, and plow them. Cities and states spend about $206 billion on highways and roads annually, while the federal government spends about $64 billion. This is much more expensive than other modes of transportation. And the cost of maintaining roads exceeds the tax revenue collected by each home on the road. That's why you see some streets repaved and others waiting their turn. Walking and biking infrastructure moves more people per hour than driving lanes do. They take up less space and cost less money. It costs $20 per square mile of walking and biking infrastructure, while roads for vehicles cost about $60 per square mile. Cars even add to the cost of housing. The cost of constructing one single parking space ranges from $5,000 for a surface level spot to $35,000 per space inside a parking garage. Nothing explains how we live for cars more than how we build houses for our cars and then an accessory space next to them as our servant quarters to take care of the car. If you're unconvinced that cars are now a requirement to get anywhere we need to go, suck almost a quarter of our income, and have resulted in longer commutes, maybe learning how they have drastically reduced your health outcomes will convince you how much we sacrifice for the almighty car. Now that we drive everywhere, spending almost 3,000 hours a year in our car, look at the rates of obesity and asthma in the United States. 4 million children develop asthma every year as a result of air pollution from cars and trucks. But that doesn't compare to the 40,000 people who die each year in America on our roads. If 40,000 people died on planes each year, nobody would fly in one. Yet we have such a high tolerance for deaths on our roads. The 40,000 fatalities a year doesn't even include crashes that result in significant injuries. So maybe we built our society around cars because it makes the built environment more beautiful. Yeah, I don't think so. Every building that is built is predicated on the number of parking spaces the property can accommodate. I'm not kidding. In order to determine what you can build on your property, the first calculation you need to make is how many parking spaces you can build. This often results in parking taking up more space than the actual building you want to construct. We build parking spaces first, and then the building as an afterthought to serve the parking lot. Look at the percentage of land in the downtown of US cities that are just parking lots. 31% of downtown Detroit, Michigan, 39% of Arlington, Texas, and 49% of downtown San Bernardino, California. Now look at what cities used to look like before we built them around the car. This was less than 100 years ago. We've built our lives around cars over the past century, and now it's ingrained in American culture. Car culture is now a part of America's identity. After some people spend 2 hours a day commuting in their car, they watch television shows about cars. We make cartoon car movies for kids so they can watch cartoon cars while they play with the accompanying car toys, and build cars as big as possible for monster truck rallies. For adults, we make movies like The Fast and the Furious and TV shows like Top Gear to satisfy our itch for cars once we are out of our physical car. Owners of car companies are American heroes to some people and are pop culture celebrities like Henry Ford, the Dodge brothers, and now Elon Musk. We are so dependent on cars in America that they are some of the biggest recipients of corporate welfare. We don't let them go out of business. In 2008, the US government gave some US automakers an $80 billion bailout after sales declined by 40% during the financial crisis and while GM and Chrysler were facing bankruptcy. Now, electric cars are the new darlings of the car industry, with Tesla being the most valuable car company in the world, valued at $1.2 trillion, despite selling less than 2 million cars per year. Compare that to Toyota, a company who sells over 10 million cars a year, which is 500% more than Tesla, but is worth a fraction of $1.2 trillion. The federal government has been giving a $7,500 tax credit to buy these EV cars, benefiting two narrow user groups: car companies selling electric cars and individuals with enough resources to purchase these electric cars, which have an average cost of $55,000. A recent working paper by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that 75% of the EV subsidies have gone to consumers who would have bought an electric car anyway. And therefore, they estimate the government spends $32,000 for each additional EV sold. Now driverless cars are on the road in some cities and in the pipeline for others. The problem with driverless cars is that they don't solve any of the problems we currently face as a result of our dependency on cars. Driverless cars still result in fatalities on our roads. They still require us to spend billions of dollars on our road infrastructure. They still result in traffic, as the same number of people will still be on the road. They will just sit in the back seat instead of the driver's seat, and will cause new crashes that humans can't currently conceive of. Simple situations render driverless cars inoperable. People troll driverless cars by putting a traffic cone on them so they stop. Our cities will still be car dependent if we adopt driverless cars, so it won't make it any easier to get to and from where we want to go without a car. It's ironic how cities may welcome driverless cars, but banned e-bikes and scooters because they thought they were too dangerous. There is a double standard when assessing the danger and nuisance of cars compared to other forms of transportation. When someone would leave a scooter in the middle of a sidewalk, people demanded scooters be removed from cities, arguing they are too much of a nuisance. Some demanded the scooters need speed governors so that they don't go too fast. These complaints are rarely made about cars, which are bigger, faster, and result in more fatalities. People are frustrated by cyclists on the road and rightfully get upset when they don't obey the rules of the road. But do drivers of cars obey the rules of the road? Do cars ever speed, run stop signs, cut people off, or engage in road rage? Nobody bats an eye when a 2-ton personal vehicle is illegally parked on top of a sidewalk, blocking the path for pedestrians. But if a scooter or bike was ever left on a sidewalk, it resulted in front page news. Yes, I can get in my car and drive across the country tomorrow. But is that freedom? Look at what we've lost. Cars limit our safety to walk to school and work. They've limited where we can live. They've hit our wallets hard. This is why when people move to cities, the first thing they do is free themselves of their car. They don't have to worry about monthly payments or finding a place to park their car. The people with the most freedom are those who can leave their house without a car and have the best access to employment, parks, groceries, and all other daily necessities. They don't worry about car insurance rates increasing or the need for a new alternator. They're free from that financial burden and stress. Cars remind me of what we are currently experiencing with the technology industry, where the intent of modern technology was to improve society, but we don't find out about the negative effects until it's too late. We know technology companies from Netflix to Meta have a goal of creating addictive products. They are advertising companies with the goal of garnering and retaining as much attention on their platforms as possible. The companies who created these products had no idea what the mental and physical ramifications of the smartphone and social media would be on adults, never mind children. And while yes, we can FaceTime and are more connected than ever, it's resulted in skyrocketing mental health issues of anxiety and depression for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Similarly, cars were also created with a positive intention to improve our lives and help us get places faster, but have resulted in negative, unintended consequences of 40,000 deaths per year and over 6 million car crashes per year. Cars make us poorer, reduce our air quality, add noise pollution, create traffic, and increase commute times. Now, cars are actually becoming more like tobacco companies. They market their products for their size and speed, knowing how dangerous bigger and faster cars are, without having to pay for the negative externalities of the deaths, crashes, asthma, noise, and pollution. This experiment, where everyone owns a personal vehicle and everything is built around the convenience of a car, is less than 100 years old. So now that our lives revolve entirely around the car, was the trade-off worth it? I think now is a good time to reflect on whether there is anything we can do differently when building our cities to make them safer for all modes of transportation. Is there anything we can do to make it faster and safer to get to the places we want to go to? What if we had alternatives like trains, buses, walking, and biking infrastructure? It would be interesting to see how society chooses to commute if they had a choice and felt safe choosing another mode, instead of the government subsidizing one mode of transportation more than any other: driving. If you're interested in cities, economics, and planning, subscribe for more videos.